The man struggled fiercely against the homeless man, who was possessed by a monster. Suddenly, the monster extended its tentacles in a strange manner. In the next moment, the monster quickly burrowed completely into the man's body. After the monster entered his stomach, the man immediately burped. Then he looked in terror at the homeless man beside him. The other had already turned into a mummy. His companions received the news and rushed over. They looked at the corpse on the ground and asked the man what had happened. However, the man lied and claimed that he had just arrived. He concealed the fact that the monster had entered his stomach. Everyone didn't think much of it after hearing this, wondering why the man still had his wits about him despite being possessed, and what exactly the monster was. The story goes back to 1814, when soldiers following Napoleon escaped after defeat, but they quickly got lost. And the worst part was that they accidentally entered nearly 30,000 hectares of Serbian forests, and there was no food to be found inside. At this moment, a woman leading a horse appeared. The soldier was about to ask for directions, when the woman suddenly asked if they were hungry. She then offered them the horse. The soldier, puzzled, took the horse and left. At this moment, the woman revealed a strange smile. Soon, the soldier led the horse back to the camp, and the others hurriedly approached to prepare to divide the horse for food. Unexpectedly, as soon as the knife was plunged in, the horse suddenly exploded on the spot. At this moment, the monster in the decaying flesh revealed its true form. The soldiers were terrified and ran away, but the monster had no intention of letting them go, and then it began to frantically hunt the soldiers. Fast forward several hundred years, a team of oil exploration workers arrived in the deep mountains of Serbia. After monitoring, they discovered that there was a large amount of oil near the abandoned factory. They set up a base here. The leader is Emily. After discussing with the team, Emily instructed the workers to start drilling immediately. However, shortly after the drilling machine started, a strong smell of stinky socks emanated from below. Everyone was overwhelmed and couldn't open their eyes. Emily immediately ordered the workers to stop, but upon careful inspection, there was nothing unusual. Then Emily ordered the drilling machine to be restarted. But suddenly, screams of animals came from below, and the machine began to emit thick smoke. Thinking they might have drilled into wild animals, with dual degrees in biology and zoology, rushed over upon hearing the news. Her mentor Nicola also came with her. They believed Emily should stop drilling immediately. Meanwhile, Teddy immediately agreed, and said that the smell of smelly socks underground must be due to too much garbage. He suggested that everyone should pick up trash and sort it regularly. Emily looked speechless after hearing this. She sarcastically suggested that they dig a garbage pit for him. Unexpectedly, Teddy actually said it should have been done long ago. Not only that, Sophia and Nicola surprisingly agreed with Teddy. Emily was very angry, but she realized she would have to get along with these people in the future. So Emily patiently explained to them, in the future, there would be a drilling rig built here that was dozens of meters high, and they would use hydraulic fracturing to extract oil. It wasn't realistic to set up a garbage pit next to it. Teddy laughed after hearing this. Then Emily ordered the workers to pull out the drill bit. Strangely, the drill bit was covered in a lump of flesh and blood. Emily quickly reassured everyone not to worry. It was probably just an accident of drilling through an animal. But Nicola felt there was something wrong about this. After all, according to the geological data of this area, there was an extremely hard rock layer below, and the drill had gone in several meters. No animal should be able to survive in such a place. Then, Nicola took some samples to examine back at the lab. At this moment, Teddy and Sophia were picking up trash in the woods. They planned to dig a garbage pit here. As they casually glanced, Teddy immediately stopped Danko from operating the excavator, because it seemed like something was moving in the pit. Moreover, the smell of stinky socks was even stronger than before. Others rushed over upon hearing the news. They surrounded the large pit. They prepared to see what exactly was in the pit. Not only that, the person inside unexpectedly started to speak, and he was speaking in French. Emily immediately called Teddy to translate for everyone. Teddy said the man kept saying, "Help me," although all of this seemed absurd. Everyone still decided to rescue the man. At this moment, John reminded everyone that the man definitely had issues, because a human couldn't survive underground, and they didn't know the man's background. To be safe, it would be most prudent to lock him up in the abandoned factory. However, Emily disagreed. She directly ignored John's words. Emily not only brought the man back, but also arranged for a few people to take care of him. Then Teddy brought the man a cup of water. The man's emotions are very excited. He kept saying something. Nicola asked Teddy to translate, but Teddy said he only knew a little. and he couldn't understand this sentence at all. There was no one at the base who spoke French, so everyone was truly at a loss. At this moment, the man suddenly lunged forward and grabbed Teddy. Nicola stepped forward to calm him down. Suddenly, Nicola stepped back in fright. He told Teddy and the others. He saw a tentacle extending from the man's nose, but Teddy dismissed it, saying it was probably just mucus mistaken for a tentacle. At this moment, the man, sensing something, sat back down, and he said a sentence. Coincidentally, Teddy understood this sentence. He told everyone that the man said there was something inside him. At this time, Emily walked over. The man kept making gestures across his throat. Everyone realized he was pleading for them to kill him. Nicola immediately called Emily out. He stated that he definitely didn't miss what he had just seen. A tentacle had extended from the man's nose. This thing should have significant research value. Then he asked Sophia to bring tools, and called the others over to help. Nicola then took a skin sample from the man, and then drew some blood. Nicola asked who could help hold the man down. John stood up after hearing this, but as soon as he held the man, a tentacle shot out from the man's nose. Everyone was instantly stunned at this sight. They realized there was a parasitic monster inside the man. Emily ordered them to isolate him, and then a few people took turns standing guard. Once the road down the mountain was repaired, they would find someone to take him away. After everyone dispersed, Teddy worried that the man was hungry, so he kindly prepared dinner for him. John beside him told Teddy, the man must be suffering from the monster inside him, so they should listen to him and let him commit suicide. Besides, that parasite might infect others. They couldn't leave a hidden danger nearby. Seeing that Teddy was silent, John suggested that he could take the food and switch shifts. Then he took the food and switched with Emily. The man immediately started eating when he saw the food. At this moment, John took out a knife and started playing with it. The man excitedly urged him in French to hand it over. John asked if he had really made up his mind to commit suicide. Suddenly, a noise nearby caught John's attention. The man seized the opportunity to grab the knife, but when he tried to end his life, the knife couldn't get close to his neck at all. It seemed the monster inside him wouldn't allow him to die. Then the monster extended its tentacles. John rushed over in fear to grab the man, but he underestimated the man's strength. Under the monster's control, John was pinned to the ground by the man. Then the scene from the beginning unfolded again. Emily asked John if he had touched the man. John directly denied it, claiming he hadn't seen anything at all. He said he had just gone to the bathroom, and when he returned, the man had turned into a mummy. At this moment, Emily told John that it was time for him to take a shower. For some reason, he now also had a smell of stinky socks on him. John awkwardly asked how to handle the body. Emily said to just leave it here for now. This would make it easier for the police to investigate later. At this moment, Nicola received the test results. He excitedly found Emily. Nicola stated that blood tests revealed the man's body was just a bit anemic. However, there were significant findings in the skin tissue analysis. They discovered some eukaryotic cells that didn't belong to humans. These cells were likely a type of algae called dinoflagellates. Dinoflagellates like to parasitize other organisms. They exist in a mutualistic relationship with other organisms. Moreover, genetically speaking, the creature inside the man could potentially be an octopus. Nicola and Sophia became increasingly excited, saying they would definitely find the monster. If they understood the research, why the monster could help humans survive underground, they would surely go down in history. Not only that, Nicola also told everyone that when they found the man, the layer of mucus covering him was equivalent to the inner shell membrane of an egg. That should be the monster's incubation chamber. Integrating the current findings, Nicola believed the monster was definitely a high-level species, but unfortunately, it was very likely to die along with its host. However, they didn't know that the monster had already parasitized John. On the other side, John had not noticed anything unusual, but he knew he was being parasitized. So John went to the mirror to look at his face. His roommate, not knowing the situation, thought he was showing off. He teased John about how narcissistic he was. John replied to him that the man they rescued had something on him, and now that same thing was on him. The roommate quickly asked what that thing was, but John said he wasn't sure either. He hadn't even realized it before it was swallowed into his stomach. The roommate thought he was just talking nonsense. John was eager to prove it. He told the roommate to smell him. The smell of stinky socks was proof of the monster. The roommate still didn't believe him, thinking that John just hadn't showered. John was so angry that he wanted to prove it to him. To quiet him down, the roommate suggested that they should arm wrestle. Maybe the monster would come out if it saw he was stronger. John thought he had a point, and soon they started to wrestle. As expected, the roommate easily won against John. He mocked John for being too weak. Under the monster's influence, John suddenly threw a punch at his roommate. John was easily knocked down to the ground. Seeing John as a waste, the monster struck. The roommate was pulled down by a tentacle, crashing into the table and dying on the spot. John was instantly stunned with fear, but he didn't tell anyone about it. The next day, John dragged his roommate's body to the back mountain. When no one was watching, he planned to bury him, but before he could start, he noticed a car driving up in the distance. John was so scared that he dragged the body into the nearby hut. Then, he forced himself to act calm and chatted with the newcomer. But the bloodstains on his clothes caught the co-workers' attention, and then they discovered the body behind John.
建工有死了。
Danko saw that his co-worker was dead, and he immediately grabbed his gun to shoot John. Danko was about to catch his breath, when suddenly he heard a strange noise from under the car. Danko hurriedly looked in the direction of the sound. The monster suddenly charged at him. After being parasitized by the monster, Danko felt extremely hopeless. He planned to commit suicide, but under the monster's control, he missed his shot. At this moment, Emily and the others arrived at the scene. After explaining the situation, he asked them to give him a quick end, but Emily took the gun and didn't do as he asked. Instead, she ran over to check the bodies. The others had died in a horrific manner, and John had turned into a pile of flesh. Emily remained strong and composed upon seeing this. She instructed the workers to go back and get a box to take the bodies back. Then, Emily approached Danko and softly comforted him. Once Danko's emotions stabilized, Emily asked what had happened at that time. Danko stated that John was initially parasitized by the monster, and that John had killed the two people, but now the monster had transferred into his stomach. Emily was shocked to hear that the monster had parasitized Danko. The situation was getting worse. At this time, Danko again requested everyone to kill him, but no one was willing to take action. Soon, Sophia received the news and rushed over. She excitedly took some of John's flesh, and Danko followed back to the base after being persuaded by everyone. Teddy wanted to disclose that Danko was parasitized by the monster, but Emily stopped him. After all, no one knew at this point how many people the monster had actually parasitized, and at that point, people would panic, making it easier to fall into chaos. Emily believed they should observe the situation for now and wait for Nicola's research results before making plans. Suddenly, a worker ran over to find Emily. He stated that Danko had gone mad, and they didn't know what he would do next. Everyone was afraid that this time bomb would explode. To protect everyone, Luca requested to deal with Danko. Emily disagreed upon hearing this, so Luca gave her an hour to think it over. If she didn't find a better solution during this time, then he would have to kill Danko with others. Then Luca locked Danko up. Looking at the mummy beside him, Danko's mental state crumbled even further. Emily asked him how big the monster was. Danko replied that it was about the size of a soccer ball, but it could change size. Once emotions spiraled out of control, the monster would grow, filling every corner of the body, just like an octopus squeezing into a hole. Moreover, the monster could sense everyone's movements. It was aware of everything those around it did, so if there was danger, it would immediately parasitize a new host. Meanwhile, Sophia made a new discovery in her research. She frantically searched through materials, as if she remembered something. At this point, Emily called Teddy aside and told him that the monster seemed to prefer males. She and Sophia had tried for a long time, but the monster didn't respond at all. The monster could only survive by parasitizing a male body. On the other side, Nicola approached Danko, thinking about how his research would shock the world. Nicola couldn't help but laugh. Danko asked him to help remove the monster, but Nicola said Danko should feel fortunate. Original. After the monster combined with the man dug from the ground, it laid eggs inside the man's body. As the man emerged from the ground, the monster's babies were also hatched. Now the little monsters had transferred into Danko's body. Nicola believed Danko had a duty to raise the little monster until it could live independently outside a human host. This absurd statement left everyone stunned. Sophia no longer defended her mentor, accusing him of being mad for the sake of fame and fortune. However, Nicola wouldn't listen at all. He believed they were jealous of him. Then Nicola threatened everyone, saying that anyone who dared to harm the little monster, he would not spare them. Soon it was time set by Luca, and besides his crazy remarks, he didn't provide any useful solutions, so Emily had to let Luca take Danko away. Immediately after, Emily briefed a few people on some matters. She told Luca to be very careful of Nicola, and that when shooting Danko, they must keep their distance. Then, Luca and the others chose a spot for Danko on the back mountain. But clearly, they had long forgotten Emily's warning. Fearing that Danko might escape, they deliberately moved closer. Danko warned them to keep their distance, but they didn't listen at all. When they saw Danko moving back, they immediately pulled the trigger to kill Danko. After a few shots, Danko exploded. They were confused by this bizarre scene. They didn't understand why Danko had turned into pulp just like John. To figure this out, they searched the area for clues. Suddenly, a worker fell to the ground, wailing. People nearby hurried over to see what was wrong. It turned out to be just a joke, but the next second, the man saw the monster and was about to shoot it, but instead, he accidentally shot his companion. Meanwhile, Nicola, locked in a room, heard the gunshots and cried. He thought the monster had been killed by them, and he cursed that humanity shouldn't monopolize the earth. Why kill all creatures that pose a threat to them? What Nicola said next was even more terrifying. He shouted that an octopus could lay thousands of eggs at once. On the other side, Luca and the others heard the gunshots and came over, but they found that the worker was already dead. They looked around warily, then they scattered to check the surroundings. When the bald man reached under a tree, he suddenly heard a strange noise from above. He looked up. A nearby woman, hearing the noise, came over. She realized that the bald man had been parasitized, so she shot him dead. At this moment, the monster tried to parasitize the woman, but realizing the gender was wrong, it fled. The woman immediately shot at the monster. Luca arrived, thinking the woman had been parasitized, and he shot without hesitation. Then the only remaining Luca returned to the base. Emily hurriedly asked where the others had gone. Before anyone could respond, Nicola suddenly rushed forward, asking if the monster was dead. Luca remained silent upon hearing this, and he walked past them to leave. Seeing that Luca wouldn't speak, Emily had to lead everyone to the back mountain. Nicola kept following Luca, asking about the monster. He was more annoying than a mantra. Luca really didn't want to hear him talk. He yelled angrily that all his teammates had been killed by the monster. Now the monster had crawled into his stomach, and he could never go home again. Nicola perked up upon hearing this, and he quickly urged Luca to keep the monster alive. Luca didn't want to entertain his nonsense at all. He directly called Emily to leave a last message. Then Luca, in despair, walked into the lake. After Luca died, his body exploded instantly. Nicola stepped forward to check the situation. Suddenly, the monster extended a tentacle and wrapped it around his waist. Frightened, Nicola urged the students to kill the monster. Sophia raised her knife and stabbed at the monster, but instead, she sliced open Nicola's abdomen. The monster prepared to crawl into the wound. Emily quickly urged Teddy and the others to run. At this moment, Nicola was completely dead, and the monster could only crawl out to seek a new host. It lunged at Emily, but realizing she was female, it left her alone. On the other side, Teddy and Sophia fled in a frenzy. The monster chased relentlessly behind. In the end, Teddy sat helplessly in the bathtub. Sophia remained silent beside him. The newspaper on the floor reported that the oil exploration team encountered a mysterious event, and 10 people died under strange circumstances. It was clear that the monster had successfully parasitized Teddy. The film came to an end here, with a relatively clear storyline. Although it was a low-budget production, the completeness of the plot was quite high. The overall pacing was moderate, the monster parasitizing males, and French soldiers living underground for hundreds of years. These two concepts were indeed interesting. However, there was only one monster throughout the film, and the monster was not very strong. But all the main characters had low intelligence, and they were all self-destructive, with several even committing suicide shortly after being parasitized, leading to the near annihilation of the team. This operation was truly confusing. It felt like everyone was forced to die. To emphasize the monster's terror, when the film mentioned that an octopus could lay thousands of eggs at once, I thought the monster would invade the Earth later, but I was greatly disappointed. There was no need to watch the original film. If you like my channel, please subscribe to my channel. Your support is the greatest encouragement for me.